I'm looking at it, America. So, as a child of an immigrant, let me try to explain it this way. America has a very unique problem. Y'all got the richest poor people in the world. Shit is crazy. I'm
Mhm.
telling you, it doesn't even, it's weird. So, even as people are poor, they have this weird sense of entitlement here because of the government and the entitlements that they get from them, right? You could be poor in the projects, your light go out, you're going to go down to the housing authority to turn it back on when you could have just got a job, when they've been knocking your door down saying they're giving out jobs down the street, so you can pay your rent.
But you guys remember back in the day banging in Little Rock?
Yeah,
We're like they're banging in Alaska.
yeah. Uh,
Did
I
y'all see
watched
that
that.
that preview?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
watched it.
it's like it's like a whole little banging in Alaska. It's not called banging in Alaska, but it's gonna always be banging in something to me. But it's like banging in Alaska, and it's like basically their hoods in Alaska, so to speak. And my question, and it was so funny because I saw this post, and in the comments, if I show y'all this, make sure you read the comments because the comments were like it. The comments did not fail. You hear me? But one of the guys in the comments asked a question, and his question was, what do you think our fascination with this type of behavior is? Like, why do you think that that's so appealing to us? Like that whole, that whole, I don't want to say hood,
No,
what's
you
the
can say
term?
it. It's all true.
Okay, that
It's
whole
true.
hood, you know,
Well,
behavior. Why is that so fascinated to black people?
well, it's
For
it's
sure.
not.
I
I'm
don't know.
sorry.
it's not called banging that's just what I'm gonna
I,
put it in the back chat. I'm gonna put it in
I,
there.
I think it's because Black American set the tone for cool internationally, and um, what's the term they used? Fleet, right? So I remember like when we were saying that in Markville for a long, long time. Then they changed it and put a K on it and changed it to Fleet. And then it became a college kid word. Then they started talking about it in the entertainment industry. And it's like a lot of the stuff from the hood bleeds up, right? And then people adopt it and then they find ways to monetize the appropriation. And because of that, it gets exported to everywhere. And when people think of the standard of what's cool, it always comes back to us. We just the only ones that don't monetize it correctly or draw paywalls around it so we protect what our image collectively and the monetization of said image. Like right now, if you look at what happened with rock and roll traditionally was our music. The way we would say rap is our music. I
Mhm.
guarantee you, rap won't be our music in 10 to 15 years. Watch what I tell you. It's already being pushed. And we just going along with it, like, no, because we so inclusive of everybody and everything. But sometimes some cultures have language barriers that create those cultural walls to prevent it. We speak English, so we dare to rights there. Then we don't control the means of production for a lot of things, so we dare to rights there. Then we don't have the proper network set up, so we dare to rights there. Like it needs to be a reformation on how we. I'm on your. Okay, hold on 1 second, baby.
It's kids night tonight, honey. Listen, the parents, baby,
Oh yeah,
you can't get
I
away.
locked it. I locked
Ah,
this room because they here now.
You
I
said
just
you like them.
I lock
look,
doors
I
on
just
mine.
put the link in the chat for the people in the chat. They want to go and watch what I'm talking about, and I'm trying to figure out because I'm on my phone and I'm on here, so I'm gonna try to download it. Do you have guys have access to the chat? I don't know if you guys have access to the chat,
Mm-mm.
but I sent the link or whatever. But and I hear what he's saying, but he's saying we should have creative control over that. Like my
Well,
thing
my
is
thing,
this: why
oh,
would I even want that? Like that's not a represent. That's not even something I want to even represent. Like, well, why do we need to know that there's a hood in Alaska? There's a hood everywhere. Like, why is this getting Showtime? Like, of all the documentaries you can do, why are we looking at a hood in Alaska?
All right,
What is
so
what is
If you
going on?
think about it, it's the programming. Like when you talk about what you watch, what you listen to, what you feed into your subconscious, they understand that, a lot of parents, especially in middle to lower classes, they've got TVs in every single room, TVs in the kitchen, in the bathroom, in every kid's room. Kids are on iPads and this, that, and a third. And so then you use this kind of programming and this propaganda to push out of honestly what is distracting. It is what is programming the masses to really feel like that's the reality. And I think there's such a disconnection between people understanding how deliberate of creators that we actually are. And it's what we focus our energy on, what we focus our thoughts on, that we end up co-creating and taking form in real actual life. And so, I was actually having a conversation with one of my friends about this the other day. It's like the whole manifesting culture that's like going on right now, where all the girls and all, the girlies and the guys was like, oh, I'm manifesting, I'm co-creating this, that, and the third. And you don't even understand the process of what that looks like. And it starts from what you are feeding your thoughts and your emotions and what you're directing that to. And so, this trash TV and, the lyrics to a lot of these songs, like, even the new SZA album. I mean, I can't listen to the album. Like, there's like one song on there where it's like, I think it's called like Conceited. That's like the only song that I listen to because it's so dysfunctional and it's so toxic. And it's like, why would I feed my mind and my subconscious? Like, my subconscious doesn't know the difference, the fact that I'm listening to a song and that I'm singing this aloud. And so, I think that these TV shows, it's all in alignment. And unfortunately, they're not really making the connection as a collective to kind of stay away from stuff like that.
And the thing is, too, is that when we consistently talk about, well, the problem is we don't control the narrative and blah, blah, blah. But the thing is, we do. If we are giving this behavior or these, we're giving people an opportunity to monetize the bad behavior. So what I'm saying is, if we eliminate the bad behavior, then we don't give anything for that to be monetized. And I think one of the things that Shannon and I had talked about earlier was a lot of times when we're trying to give credibility to being Black or our Blackness, we bring up I grew up in the hood, you know what I'm saying? And when someone says that, we know that there are certain behaviors and a mindset that goes along with that. And a lot of it is survival when you're growing up in an environment like that. But I beg that the question should be, why do so many of us have those similar stories of saying, I grew up in a hood? I think that's the bigger issue. Why are so many of us have grown up in environments that are in the hood, that's unsafe?
That is very easy to answer, Mistaken. So that was going to be a part of my answer. Okay, so this is going to happen and keep happening because of one reason. There is no issue that the Black community suffers from that cannot be traced back to fatherlessness. Not one.
Yes, sir. Thank you for saying it.
So that's where the dysfunction comes from, and then we're dealing with it all the way down the line. So I'm gonna try something here. Let's see if I can make this analogy work. I heard once, or I think I watched something or read something, that when Black people were slaves in this country, they were given the worst parts of the pig to eat after they've cooked for their masters. And that's where chitlins come from. Anybody in the chat, please correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct.
Even though you were given the worst parts of the pig, you still had to make it taste good to be edible for your consumption. I take that direct analogy and I flip it over into the way people act and like dysfunction today. You're given the worst neighborhoods, you're given the worst schools, you're given the worst education, okay? But you still got to make it look good. And that's where we get this love for dysfunction from, right? Because it's all you know, it's all you have, it's all you've been given. So you got to put some flavor on it to make it palatable to the world. And that's where it looks like, why are Black people so in love with this crazy stuff? Why are y'all marketing just ignorance to the mainstream? It comes from that cycle, that particular cycle.
Yeah, but I guess for me is, I don't know in any other culture, just across the board, where most people, and I think most of us are kind of and I don't want to say embarrassed, but don't necessarily agree per se with the behaviors that occur, but it appears that we glorify that. But
Yeah.
if you grew up in that environment, most people who lived in that environment don't want to be there. Right? So those who grow up in the hood want to get out of the hood, but it appears a lot of times that we glorify it so much, like in rap songs, in media, the videos about, like she just brought up with the Alaska talk, like that's the part that I don't like. As soon as we got to the point where we were able to afford a home, guess what?
Mhm.
My family moved out of that environment because it isn't a safe environment to raise a family.
Well, it is a very complex issue, and I definitely am not talking from the victim side because I'm on that side, right? I'm never going to the hood. I live in a very nice suburban neighborhood. I'm definitely going to teach my kids why they should never end up there and all of that. I'm looking at it, America. So, as a child of an immigrant, let me try to explain it this way. America has a very unique problem. Y'all got the richest poor people in the world. Shit is crazy. I'm
Mhm.
telling you, it doesn't even, it's weird. So, even as people are poor, they have this weird sense of entitlement here because of the government and the entitlements that they get from them, right? You could be poor in the projects, your light go out, you're gonna go down to the housing authority to turn it back on when you could have just got a job. When they've been knocking your door down saying they're giving out jobs down the street, so you could pay your rent and keep electricity in your home. So there's a weird sense of entitlement here, right? Um, and that is kind of what is perpetuating this cycle. And I also believe that because it's weird. Some black people say y'all don't have a culture, but y'all do. Y'all have your own food. You got your own music. You have your own styles of clothing. That is the makings of a culture, or at least a subculture turning into a burgeoning culture. You sell your culture all around the world. So yes, black people do have a culture, and when you have a culture, you seek validation inside of it, and that's the issue. We talk to our girls in the black community saying they should want a man like me, an educated man, someone who went to school, he takes care of his kids, he drives a nice car, he take care of all the bills. You should want a man like that, but they love the hood dude though. Even a dude, even if even if they're trying to go get a dude above that, then what do they say? He got to have some hood in them though, right? Because they want the validation from where they came from. Unless you're willing to leave that behind, you cannot progress in life past that. They want the valid, like when we see certain people get killed in the clubs and killed in the hood, and you got to scratch your head like, I went to college with that person. What were they still doing there? It's because they go back there for validation, right? They go to work on Wall Street, but they want to take their S-Class Mercedes around the hood to show everybody what they did. So it's that culture that they're seeking validation from. And it's because you don't do that in the slums of Nigeria because you like, no, I left. I I'm gone. But here we have such a weird class of poor people, right? They're so entitled and all of that you want to go out there and stunt and still be friends with them. So that's one of the weird,